Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about all the different types of brushes and what they're used for. Now, I am a self-taught painter, and I want to preface this by saying that everybody uses their brushes differently, and just because I use my brushes one way does not make my way the right way or the only way. And that goes for you too. You might find one brush that works better for you than all the rest. For me, that's usually the flat tip brush, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But if you end up loving, let's say, the angle tip brushes and you use those on everything, everybody does their own thing differently. So this is just to show you what you can do with the different brush types and kind of help you get started. Okay, I'm going to be working on a mixed media pad. It's got nice thick paper. So we're going to demonstrate on this. I got my little cup of water handy and my little palette of paints. The flat tip brush is far and above my favorite. I use it on so many things, and you can get them in a variety of sizes. So actually, this is a different kind of brush. It's a flat brush, but it's called a bright. And so we'll talk about that in a moment. Here is another one in an even smaller size. These are great for laying down a lot of color at one time and blocking in an area of color. So one thing that I always like to do is dampen my bristles before I pick up any paint. I just think that helps the paint kind of slip off the bristles a little better. And then I just kind of dab off a little bit of the water so it's moist, but it's not dripping. And now I'm just going to pick up a little bit of color. I'll pick up this teal that I have here, and you load your brush. Get a nice amount on there. For a flat tip brush, you can put it completely down on the flat side and make nice long areas, and you can block in a large area with some color. So that's a really great way to base coat something. Now, if you want to make outline something, let's switch colors so you can really see this demonstrated. Let's say I wanted to outline this little teal area with a darker teal. I could load my brush up, and instead of putting it flat, I can put it up on its tippy toes. That's what I like to say. And I can use it to kind of just trace along the edge of something. And so this is a good way to kind of work in smaller spaces and make a nice thinner stroke. So that is another option as well. So that is your flat tip brush. And that flat tip brush that I was just using is just probably about 3/4 of an inch wide. So of course they make them even smaller if you need a smaller one for other things. This brush is a type of flat tip brush, but if you notice, the length of the bristles is shorter. That is a bright brush. It has shorter bristles. It allows you to have a little bit more control, and you can use a little bit more of a firmer touch with this, but they pretty much do very similar things. So let's move on to an angle tip brush. This is another favorite of a lot of people who follow me. I hear a lot of them say, I almost exclusively used angle tip brushes for things. So let's talk about the anatomy of this paintbrush. The long part of the angle brush, the longest part there, is called the toe. The shorter part is called the heel. So when I'm teaching, a lot of times I'll say load this color up on the toe of the angle tip brush, and I use it a lot for shading. It's also great for getting in tight areas and making kind of contoured strokes. So I'm going to pick up a color here. Let's do this pretty purple. You can do flat areas and kind of, fill in an area just like I did with the flat tip brush. And you could do this with the flat brush as well, but you can make curved shapes, and then you can also put it up on its toe and make nice smooth strokes. Something I really love to do though is to load just a little bit of paint on the tip of the brush, and a lot of times I will shade using just the toe of that brush. And you can do that by getting just a little bit of water on your brush and a little bit of paint, and you can just keep working it back and forth and make it nice and soft. And by using it up there on the toe of the brush, it allows you to kind of keep the paint nice and thin. And so that's a great way to shade, is to keep your paint up on the toe of that brush and just keep blending. If it's too harsh, get a little bit more water and keep working it, and you'll be able to smooth it out. Okay, so that's the angle tip brush. Great for shading, filling in areas, and making lines. Another brush is the Filbert tip. Now this is a smaller Filbert, but you can see that the Filbert is shaped more like the end of a finger in comparison to a flat tip brush. You see how it has a nice curved edge, whereas the flat has a 90-degree angle on the corners. This is great for making polka dots or any rounded shape like a flower petal. So let's dampen it, and we'll do a flower shape. Get a little bit of this pink right here. And so for a flower, you can just kind of curve and make the petals, and you can kind of twist the brush in your fingertips as you curve, and you're going to get really nice rounded shapes. And then it does pretty well for filling in an area also. So you can see if you do a polka dot for a circle, you would just put your brush down and you twist with your fingertips. See how I twisted with my fingertips and it made a perfect polka dot. I also love this one for doing lettering. So if I wanted to do cute block lettering, I can just make simple lines like this. and make some pretty cute block lettering. Okay, that's the Filbert Tip Brush. Next up, we have the round tip brush. Round is because the way the bristles come out of the end of the ferrule. If I haven't mentioned that before, the metal part of the brush is the ferrule. This is your handle, and then these are your bristles. Now, see where the bristles come out of the end of the ferrule? It is round. It's a circle shape, and so that is why this is called a round tip brush. Rounds are great for detail work, for making lines, for lettering, all kinds of things. So I can make nice curved lines with a round tip brush, add some details. I can do lettering. But see how I can go back over and thicken some of the downstrokes to kind of make them look a little bit thicker than just the quick little upstrokes. Adds for more dynamic look to your lettering. So you can go back and add details to, you know, other things that you've painted. So it just makes it really fun to kind of play, and it's almost like writing with a pencil. So it's fairly simple. Now this little round tip brush has a nice compact amount of bristles, so it holds a lot of paint, and I can do a nice long line. There is another kind of round tipped brush that is more like a liner. See how this has really long, thin bristles? I'm trying to hold it where you can see it. This is different from that round tip brush that I just showed you. Do you see how these are much shorter and have a bigger belly? I think that's what they call the middle part of the bristles. It's got a fatter belly. This is skinnier and longer. This allows you to do really long line work. So if you had a nice amount of thinned out paint, you could load that brush up and you could do a nice long thin line. You could also use it for details and things like that. You're not going to have as much control over making curves and things, but you are going to be able to do a nice thin line if you need, you know, a little bit of control over your thin lines. The last one that I wanted to mention, and probably the most fun, is this little fan brush. We'll dampen those bristles just a little bit and show you that you may have seen Bob Ross use these brushes to, and I'm not very good at this, so don't laugh at my demonstration, but you can make like the trunk of the tree, and then you can use the fan brush, and I'm already doing it wrong, I feel like, and you can, I haven't practiced this a lot, so y'all really, seriously, don't laugh. But it is really fun to do, but you can kind of wiggle it back and forth and make something that looks very akin to a realistic tree. And so just kind of follow it on up. My tree got kind of wild up there at the top, but you get the picture. Oh, don't drag it through there. I like that texture. The thing that I use this brush for the most is actually not trees, although you can use it for trees. I use it a lot for splatter paint. So the quickest and easiest way to do splatter paint is with one of these fan brushes. You water down your paint, and then you dab that fan brush in that paint, and then you just tap. And when you tap, it makes the funnest little splatter paint. It's that easy, and it is going to get all over the place, so just be careful when you do that. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial on the different brush types and their uses. There are even more brushes than what I mentioned today, but these are the most basic ones that you're going to use the most often, especially with me when it comes to door hanger painting. So if you don't have brushes like this, you can go pick some up in our shop. We actually have some with pink handles that are coming out very soon, and they'll be the same exact ones that I use all the time. So I hope to see you next time, and happy painting. Bye, everyone.